And this is 20th level commoners for Tephra, the Steampunk RPG. Welcome everybody back to 20th level commoners. I'm Vincent.
I'm Cody.
And we are going to talk about not Pathfinder.
Yeah.
What?
This is season 2. We are broadening our horizons. We are
like
doing
season 3 or 4.
Yeah, depending on how you count it.
Yeah. We'll call it season 2.
We
Phase
had a bit
2.
of a break. Yeah, this is certainly phase
Option 2.
Oh.
But yeah, so we're going to start branching out since we've gone over basically all the Pathfinder classes, at least the ones we care to talk about.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to start talking about some other RPG systems. And the first one we're going to talk about is Tephra, the Steampunk RPG by Cracked Monocle Games.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit of a side story with this one. We actually met the creator of this game. He DM'd a demo campaign for us at A-Kon.
Yeah, he demoed the game for us. We all played some pre-made characters. I think I played some kind of ninja, and I don't remember who you played.
I was a elf archer.
Yeah.
I punched a robot to death. It was cool.
It was pretty rad. Yeah, we basically just had this boss fight against some, sentinel. It was really neat, and he basically sold us the RPG. He's a nice guy. He signed our book and everything.
Yep. So, biased opinions or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
we met the guy once.
We're probably going to say a few less than positive things about this game, but overall, I like it a lot.
Yeah. So, let's jump into it. Tephra is primarily a steampunk RPG. It's, obviously, as the title suggests. Mm-hmm. So the lore is very much based around that idea. Some highlights of it, though, are that elves are basically orcs.
Yeah, it's really neat how they did that. The elves, they're kind of like these. They're basically drows, but they're built like gorillas. Mm-hmm. Because, apparently some 1,000 years ago, there was this catastrophe and their souls were broken apart. And now in this more modern Victorian-style society, elves have found a way to sort of synthetically regain their spirits and become these kind of angelic, elf-like beings we know today called farishtas.
Yeah, so you have to go through a surgery if you're an elf to become a farishta. If you're an elf, you're like a big brute. If you turn into a farishta, you're like this bipolar pretty person.
Yeah, and the neat thing about that is there's a lot of classes in there because only the wealthy elves can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it makes you insane.
Yeah, you get slightly unhinged by it. And
you generally don't remember your friends and families. You'll find yourself just staring up at the sky and laughing for no reason. It's the flavor text on it is great. This, I would say, is probably the highlight of the plot.
Of the races in the plot. You got other ones. You got gnomes. You got humans. You got Iodin, who are basically sea people.
Yeah.
They have wings. They look pretty cool.
They have wings that they swim with. And they do all sorts of really cool stuff with it. They're kind of like Abraham Sapien from Hellboy.
Mm-hmm.
But they're neat. And, of course, you have humans. And you also have satyrs.
Satyrs are exactly what they sound like.
Yeah, except the neat thing about them is that they were actually genetically created by this, evil empire of slavers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the races.
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah, the story so far, it's pretty standard. If you've read the Pathfinder, primer, you kind of know where this is going. There's a good empire that was beset by civil war. There's an evil slaver empire, and they're all sort of on the brink. It's all pretty much built to pull you into these sort of political adventures, and the whole world's on the brink of war and stuff like that. It's well made, but it's not nearly as impressive as the actual races, which has put a lot of really interesting thought into.
Yeah, so every race has a number of traits they can take, which are basically their racial abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can kind of pick and choose what your racial abilities are. So, for instance, if you were to take humans can win all ties. That is a very
Yes.
good. Actually, in our campaign, Steven and I were humans, and we used that to great effect.
Yes, and I was DMing, and oh my god, it was so annoying.
Haha, we tied. Tie goes to attacker. Nuh-uh, I got peerless.
Sons of bitches.
That's what it's called. But in addition to the traits you can pick, you can also either pick from a random trait, random table, or just roll it.
Yeah.
And that'll give you stuff like extra speed. You're better at initiative. With the Farishtas, it's stuff like
Wings.
the Farishtas.
Yeah, they get wings.
Huh.
They can't properly fly with them, I don't think, but they can do stuff with it.
Yeah. But yeah, like the Farishtas, that's kind of where the craziness comes from, because that's where you get the, you stare blankly at the sky and laugh.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you a bonus, but the trait, the flavor text is that you have to occasionally stare in the sky and laugh.
It is pretty good flavor text.
I think there's another one where you start seeing other elves who haven't had the Farishta surgery as basically Farishtas. You start treating them like Farishtas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think there's another one where you like attack them on sight. Like, I think if you want a chaotic neutral in your party.
Yeah, Farishtas are great for that.
Yeah. I'd say my favorite race in this whole little thing is probably the Satyr, just because they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they actually have a trait to where, like, they never get properly drunk, where alcohol is just a stimulant.
And they can like give themselves ridiculous speed, and they can give themselves like a lot of these rat folk type powers, where if there are other satyrs around, they get a bonus, which we actually used in kind of the mini series we did after our main campaign.
Yeah.
All of us just played satyrs. It was like, all right, let's do it.
Satyrs are great.
Yeah. Gnomes are kind of cool.
Yeah, gnomes get a lot of weird stuff.
Because they can get like this ability where they can bend their sight 90 degrees to look around a corner.
I still have no idea how that would work.
I don't either, but they can do it. They can also grow using large person on themselves, basically.
And so they can like talk to animals, stuff like that.
Yeah, so they get a lot. So it's a lot of there's a really big variety. The Iodine can use their wings like shields, or they can like equip 4 weapons like quad wield.
Yeah.
I don't think they can attack, but they can like have 4 shields or 3 shields. I think. Well, they can basically like prehensile tail.
Yeah.
And I think they get a shield. They can use a shield on top of that. Don't quote me. Yeah, that's kind of a rundown of all the races. And so you have there's a few, like there's a limited selection of races, but there's a great variety to what they can actually do.
Yeah, I think honestly that might be a better thing. Maybe not better than what Pathfinder has, because Pathfinder is going for something very different. Because this one, you're trying to create this living, breathing world, and if you're doing that, if you really want to be specifically in this setting, it is much better, I think, to have a very small number of very, very well-defined races. Whereas in Pathfinder, you have like 40 races.
Something ridiculous.
And a race builder, so you can just make whatever you want.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at the human, you have like 16 options for a racial trait.
Yeah.
12 of those are on a table. You roll randomly. So
it's great.
It's pretty cool. So those are the races. Those are the lore. That's kind of the age you're in, the world you're in. Very close to Pathfinder.
Yes. There are airships. There are robots. There is genetic manipulation, which is pretty cool. But there is also just a little bit of magic. And magic, it's, I think it's sort of like it's dying, or it's relatively subtle compared to something like Dungeons and Dragons. It's stuff like controlling animals, or like healing through faith and stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the mechanics.
No.
So the meat of the game is this game kind of takes a page from the True 20 Green Ronin style, where there's one dice and it is a D12. You never use any other dice besides a D12 in this game.
Yeah, and it's pretty elegantly made around that too.
Yeah, so you don't have DCs and skill checks the way you do in Pathfinder. You have tiers, 1 through 4. And depending on what you roll and how high your skills are, determines the tier you get, and you base what happens off the tier, not the actual roll, in like 90% of cases.
Yeah, and the tier, it's basically like every 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was to roll, if I hit somebody and then I was going to roll damage, I can roll, like, let's say a 12, that would be in tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I just for some reason get a 20, that's a tier 3. You can get up to tier 4. You can't go beyond tier 4 technically, but like we've had some pretty ridiculous rolls that almost call for it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be pretty easy to get them high up there, especially if you min-max.
Yeah, very much so. We'll get to that later.
Min-maxing. Yeah, we'll get to min-maxing.
So everything is based around just one dice and a tiered system. Also, you don't have, a set number of actions like standard move, that kind of thing. You have AP.
Yes.
Kind of the way Shadowrun, I believe, does it. So you start off with...
Sorry.
Yeah. So you start off with 3. Everyone starts off with 3. And then you can, as you level up, you get more. I think by the end you have 6. Mm-hmm. And the max level in this game is 12, by the way.
Everything is 12 in this game?
Yes, everything is 12. The random rolls, the tiers, all of it's 12. All is 12. But, yeah, so... getting back on my train of thought here. I was talking about HP, AP. You can do. There are certain things you can do to give yourself more AP in like a kind of a berserker frenzy kind of way. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's that. Your speed is determined by your race.
Yeah. And
there are other things like there are special abilities you can take that'll raise it. There are random traits you can get that'll raise it. And, yeah. One thing, and also, kind of your attributes are determined by your skills.
Yeah, and this is another thing I really liked. It seemed pretty elegant. Mm-hmm. You basically get feats, and you get 3 feats at first level and 1 feat every level afterwards.
Yeah, those are the specialties. We'll get to those in a second.
Oh, okay.
So like your attributes... There are brute, cunning, science, dexterity, and spirit. Uh-huh. And these are your attributes, but your attributes aren't determined by a point buy like they are in Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. They're determined by how many ranks you have in the associated skills. So basically, if you're looking on the character sheet here, you will have your 5 attributes arranged in a arc. Yeah. And then above those attributes will be the skills associated with them. And you get skill points every level.
Yeah.
So when you start, you get 3 points in 1 skill, 2 points in 2 skills, 1 point in 3 skills at level 1 that you can put anywhere. As you level up, it's 2 points in 1 skill and 1 point in 2 skills for every level after 1. And you can't like stack those up, so they have to be in different skills.
Yeah, it's so
the game kind of forces you to diversify.
If you were to put something in ace, agility, marksmanship, or swashbuckling, those all come under the dexterity family. So if you have like 3 in agility and 7 in marksmanship, you would get 10 dexterity. Mm-hmm. And so this would be like on any kind of like roll you made to dexterity, like to dodge an explosion or something like that. The normal dexterity stuff.
Yeah. And so the more you commit to one particular tree of the skill trees, the better the resulting attribute becomes. So instead of your attribute kind of determining your skills determine your attributes. For those of you wondering, science is the crafting attribute. There's an entire attribute devoted to crafting. In fact, there's a lot of things devoted to crafting in this game.
Crafting is definitely the biggest deal.
Yeah, it's a big
and the biggest draw too. I think this is probably the main thing it has in common with Shadowrun, more than the AP system. It's just that you just have this really big, awesome catalog, and just flipping through is kind of half the joy of the game.
Mm-hmm. So there's 6 science skills that can be used to craft, and in one of the source books, you can actually use luck to craft as well.
Yeah.
Which is a skill. So that's cool. But moving on to what Cody was talking about earlier, your stats, like your chance to hit, your chance to avoid stuff. All of that is determined by what are called specialties, which are basically, like Cody said, feats.
Yes.
And so feats give you a special ability, but they also give you 3 stat increases. And these can be to like HP, accuracy, priority, which is initiative, your speed. And so your character increases all of his, they're not attributes, but like basically all the algorithms that would normally be derived from your attributes are instead derived from your what are called specialties.
Yeah, and this actually makes this weird kind of metagame, which I also like. And that you can pick a specialty based on what it'll give you, but oftentimes the best specialties give you something like crap for hit points and stuff like that, or no hit points at all. And so you kind of have to decide what you want, especially in early games. There's going to be some pretty brutal decisions.
Yeah, so at first level, you actually get 3 specialties, and then you get 1 every level after that.
Yeah.
So, and it can be hard, and I don't know if I like it, because I feel like you're kind of forcing yourself to kind of take crappy, not useful things just to get the stat boost. And if you're not careful, it is really easy to like accidentally min-max yourself into something you really don't want.
Yeah.
And to just give yourself like a glaring weakness. You're just like, how am I going to take care of this?
I would, DMing this, I know I'm kind of a soft-touch DM on a lot of stuff, but I would definitely be pretty generous with the respecs on this.
Yeah.
It's so easy to screw up.
Yeah. I did it twice.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, like you make like really good characters, and then like you just like get sick of it, and it's like I screwed up. He's ruined.
Yeah, and you know they end up not being as quite what I intended.
Yeah.
Or I find out I'm just completely outclassed, and I shouldn't be here with this character because you just. Kind of gets to the point you're kind of bringing the team down.
Very easy thing to do in this game.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to know your role in this.
So it kind of shares a little something with like 4th edition in that where roles are a big thing, even though there's no classes. Knowing what you're doing. This game benefits from having an organized group.
Yeah, I would almost say you should make a character dedicated to crafting and crafting alone.
The problem is if you're the crafting character,
you're not a fighter.
You suck at everything.
Unless you're crafting bombs or something.
Yeah. We had Trevor was our crafter guy, and he could do like good damage with bombs. But that was, again, also taking away from one of his skills because he had to put it into alchemy. So if he wanted to spec into something like armsmith, which is weapons production.
Yeah.
So another problem I kind of have with Tephra is if you want to be good at crafting, you have to commit to it. And I'm talking every skill point you have has to go into these skills. These side skills.
I think maybe you could be crafting one very specific thing and then make a pretty well balanced character. But if you want to be the crafting guy, that's all you're gonna be.
Yeah, you can kind of be an off crafter, but the crafting is gonna fall off in later levels.
Yeah,
like hard to the point you might as well not even put points in it anymore. And we'll get to that when we get to crafting and we explain the tier system with that. Let's move on to kind of laying out your stats.
Yes.
So they like to do everything in 2s here. So if your 2 hit chance is called your accuracy, your damage is called your strike. So they're 2 different stats. So you can have a high accuracy, which means you'll hit a lot, and a low strike, which means you don't do as much damage, or vice versa.
I believe guns are an exception to this. Like, it's just accuracy.
Guns and bows, yes.
Yeah.
guns and bows, ranged weapons, basically, use accuracy only.
I think thrown weapons still use strike, but...
Yes. Yeah, they should. And so the way you do damage in this game is you don't like roll a d6, you have a damage class. Mm-hmm. And depending on what tier you get, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you basically tier up your damage. So take my sample character, for example, he has a damage class of 10. Mm-hmm. So if I was to roll accuracy, get a hit, and then I roll strike. So let's say I get a 15 on the strike. That's a tier 2. I have a damage class of 10, and 10 times 2 is 20. So I would do 20 damage.
Yeah.
And so that's how it works. So it's very static. There's no... It uses these static numbers to put variance into the hits, the way Pathfinder does. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of cool, actually. I like that. Of course, it can, if you have a really high damage class, it can lead to some wild damage outputs, but it's kind of fun. Yeah. So you have 2 stats you have to worry about if you want to be a hitter. If you want to be a dodgy guy, you also have 2 stats to worry about. Well, 1. So if you want to be a dodgy guy, you will have evade, which is your chance to avoid hits. So basically, if someone rolls accuracy, you roll evade. I think you can intention. No, you can't intention. Never mind. You roll evade, and if your evade beats their accuracy, you win. And that's one of the few instances you use a
opposed roll.
Yeah, it's an opposed roll, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I really prefer to like just beating a stack AC because it kind of makes the defender involved in it as much as the attacker. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were so cool about that when we went back to Pathfinder, there were like 2 or 3 weeks. It was like, all right, he has a 25 AC. No, Cody, he doesn't roll for AC. Right, I'm sorry.
I still want to do that sometimes. This is like a year and a half ago.
Yeah. The other defensive attribute occurs when you actually get hit, and it's called your defense. Mm-hmm. So you roll your defense if you get hit, and much the way damage class works, you have something called a soak class.
Yes.
Which is exactly the same as damage class, except it's DR. So if we were to use my sample character again, say I roll defense, I get a tier 2, I have a soak class of 5, but I got a tier 2, so that's 5 times 2. I would negate 10 damage of the 20 damage myself would do to me.
Yeah.
And so that's how armor works in that game. And so if you want to stack up on armor, you can actually make a pretty untouchable guy, as Steven proved.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about Steven.
We have a lot of stories of the game just kind of breaking on us.
We did 1.5 campaigns, and...
and it got stupid.
Oh my god, yes.
But we'll get to that. We'll probably get to that at the end. Or as it works. Yeah, fuck it. Let's talk about it now. So, Steven.
Yeah. Steven made a barbarian.
So... Tephra was not the first system we used for this campaign. It was actually the 3rd one we used.
Yeah.
We started on Pathfinder. Cody got really sick of Pathfinder, so we switched to some basic D&D clone. Cody didn't like it, and then we were at A-Kon, and so he bought the Tephra system, and so then we switched to Tephra. So throughout all 3 of these, Steven was playing some kind of barbarian guy.
Mm-hmm. He still played the same character. I was very proud of him.
I switched characters all 3 times.
No,
to be fair, the guy I played in basic D&D was a horrible choice.
Multi-class is terrible. We should get to do a basic D&D one day, but...
Oh my god. But, excuse me. But essentially what happened was, Steven likes big buff guys. Like Guts is his senpai.
Yes, very much so.
So obviously what that means is Steven did not really go for evade. He went for defense. Mm-hmm. And so he got a big soak class, helped partially by Cody.
Yeah, partially.
Because we had a boss fight with Havel the Rock.
Yes, the Havel the Rock. He was literally Havel the Rock.
Except he could throw lightning spears. My guy found out. I was not playing a high defense guy. I was playing a tactical guy.
Uh-huh.
We should get to support at some point because support is really fun in this game. But
it is.
So Steven took his armor and his ring that reduced. So the ring basically did the same thing it does in Dark Souls. Because you do have like speed and evade penalties if you have heavier armor on. But you can take specialties that reduce that. And then Cody gave Steven a ring that reduced that even further. So he was basically wearing the heaviest armor with no penalty.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, Steven was unkillable. Literally unkillable. Because here's the thing. Steven had such a high soak class and such a high defense that no matter how hard you hit him, he could probably negate all of it.
Even before then, he had ridiculous hit points. Remember when I hit him in the head with the ballista?
Yeah.
And made tier 4 damage on it?
Yeah. Steven got shot in the face with a ballista and lived.
Yeah. That was like 9 times 4. That was 36 damage. And we
were like level 3, so he had like 45, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was cool. It was
but
funny.
Like he permanently had like this hole in his head, and to his credit, he role played a very brain damaged dude.
And so basically what that ended up being was there's also unsoakable damage, it's called, which is basically unsoakable damage. The thing is, if you go into a brute skill called resilience, which is what Steven did, you can soak unsoakable damage.
My one hope crushed.
Just ground under the heels. This is not the first time this has happened to Cody either. We'll talk about that later. If we ever do the Dragon Age game, I guess.
Oh, we should totally do the Dragon Age game one day.
Yeah. So, the first serious campaign Cody ever ran, he let Trevor do the same thing.
Yeah, the exact same thing happened. To be fair, though, I was not reading the rules right, and that stuff would not have worked.
But yeah, we'll get to that if we get to the Dragon Age game.
Definitely.
I've never played that, so it should be interesting.
It's good.
But yeah, essentially we had an unkillable tank in our team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted a downside with his character is that he had no accuracy.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. I was playing a support character who can bump up his accuracy to a ridiculous level.
Yeah.
So the combination of me supporting him kind of made him like just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was nuts.
It was not an isolated case either, because Trevor, his spoilers, the guy who used bombs, he blew up.
Yeah.
Spectacularly, I might add.
Yeah, it destroyed the airship that they were on. It was pretty epic. Like, that was the closest I came to killing Steven, too. Like, if I really wanted to, I could have. But I gave him half damage because Trevor kind of went out of his way to, like, push him away.
Yeah, that's a very Trevor thing.
Yeah.
But the guy Trevor made after that was basically a frenzy barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to basically give him all of my AP to do ridiculously long attacks. Because support in this game is not like Pathfinder. It is active. You have to be aware. Mm-hmm. And you have to like actually, because basically what you're doing is you're throwing out your AP outside of your turn to give people bonuses. So mostly what I would do is I would give people a bonus to accuracy or strike. But what I could also do is give all of my AP to someone to have them come over and attack someone adjacent to me.
Yes.
And we use that to great effect because there is a specialty called 100 Strikes, I think, that Trevor took, and then which lets him make an attack. If it's only an attack, he can use all of his AP to... It's basically a flurry of blows. So what I would do is I would run over to a guy, basically say, kick his ass, kick his ass, kick his ass. And then Trevor would get basically double AP. So he'd basically get like a double flurry of blows. and just wreck whoever was right next to us. Like, there's a lot of symmetry in this game.
There's a lot of synergy too. You can make these really
synergy is what I meant.
Oh,
I said symmetry, didn't I?
Yes,
okay.
You did. Yeah. It's very symmetrical. But yeah, you can make these really great outlandish characters, and they work together so well, especially with a tight group like what we have.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really cool stuff. Like, I would actually like to go a little bit more into detail on Trevor's character.
Okay.
Because he was nuts. He played this gnome, and he just played this weirdo with a mask who would just craft bombs, and he would stay on Steven's shoulder, which is where a lot of the drama would come from, because he would be kind of like the bad conscience for Steven, who was brain damaged. And so he would just tell them to do horrible things, and the rest of the group would blame Steven on it.
Yeah, we would. Because we had no idea.
Yeah.
Like there was one point I refused to use any of my tactics abilities on Steven because he was just being ridiculous. Like, just we walk up to some old woman, some old hobgoblin, and Trevor's character was he hated hobgoblins, so he like whispers in Steven's ears, kill her, do it. Like, this girl has done nothing to us. And Steven's just like, okay.
To be fair, he would have done something.
Yeah. But it was basically like, Vince will help me. No, you're on your own. No, beat her yourself. He spent the rest of the campaign going, but she did attack us. I don't care.
Yeah, and like, Steven was also a cannibal in this. He would eat sentient beings.
He ate harpies because he was a harpy racist.
Yeah, he was a harpy racist.
He was a racist, brain-damaged, hillbilly barbarian.
So good. But,
Karn the Beheader.
The big finale with Trevor's character was that from the beginning he intended to die.
Which is, again, like 80% of Trevor's characters.
Yeah. He had rigged himself with a dead man switch onto his heart.
Yeah.
So when his heart stopped beating, a bomb would go off.
Yeah.
And this bomb would trigger all the other bombs on him, and he had many.
So another thing to note about Tephra is ammo is basically not counted.
Yeah.
And the thing about bombs is as long as you get a short rest, you get your full supply back. Mm-hmm. So basically like an alchemist in Pathfinder might get 12 bombs. Imagine if after every battle they sat down and the alchemist just got all 12 bombs back.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happens in Tephra.
And so I had rigged this character because I sort of suspected, like, I knew that Trevor had bombs on him. So I knew if I hit those bombs with bombs, those bombs would go off. And so I had made this guy, he was based off of that one character in Final Fantasy VI. Setzer, yeah. And because he was on this rival airship, and he was throwing explosive playing cards at him. The first move in the entire fight, it's critical hit. It hits one of his grenades, it starts a chain reaction, it kills Trevor, it sets off the heart bomb, and
Trevor had 3 rolls to not explode. He got a 1 on every single one.
Yeah. And so the last thing he manages to do is push Steven's character down and jump off. And he killed you guys' airship, their airship. He killed Setzer. Steven lost an arm and a leg.
Yeah, he got better.
Yeah, because prosthetics are really great in this game. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to have your limbs chopped off in Tephra.
And it's surprisingly easy.
Yes, it is.
Finish the story.
And so that was actually a really, really sad moment when, he died, and yeah, I probably should have killed Steven on that one.
Nah.
But I'm glad.
Karn will live on forever in the pantheon of characters.
Yes.
Of this gaming group's
yes,
characters.
He will.
Yeah, so the reason it's really easy to get your arms and legs chopped off is because this game uses a 40k style fatal system.
Yes.
So essentially, when your HP goes down to 0, because you don't really have a constitution to go off of, you have something called wounds. And everyone has 12 wounds to start with. Whenever, these are basically your negative HP pools. So, whenever your HP goes down to 0, you suffer what's called a wound. And it's this table you roll on. And on the character sheet, there's 12 spots where you can be hit. So when you start getting into wound territory, you'll roll a d12 and you'll start taking like debuffs. Like someone will slash your eye and you'll be blinded, or someone will like hit you in the ear and you'll be deafened, or the legs so you're lame. But when you run out of wounds, which happens very quickly, you roll what's called a fatal.
Yes.
So the fatal's not always fatal, but it's always character changing.
You sometimes will have like a turn or two to like stop the bleeding.
Yeah. So so there's the obvious ones. If someone rolls, a fatal on your head, they behead you.
And you're dead.
If someone rolls a fatal on like your chest or your throat, you're dead. There's nothing you can do. The throat is actually kind of fucked up because you live for one turn bleeding out, but there's no way to stop the bleeding. The game says there's no way to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to read it to you. If your neck is dealt a fatal blow, you will die at the end of your next turn. That's it. You're just dead. Sorry.
You have one turn.
You have one turn to go.
It's like it's like the 5-finger exploding palm, but grosser.
Yeah. However, if you are to take a fatal to the eyes, you are not dead, but you are blind. That's what happened to Trevor. Actually.
Yeah, which is not how he died at all. He just lost his eyeball. He took an arrow to the eyes. Mm-hmm. Somehow both of them.
Somehow. But like if you get hit in the groin, you get gutted. Mm-hmm. You can actually still survive, but
like I think Kais lost his leg and bled out.
I think Kais got his throat slit. No, Kais got gutted.
Yeah.
And he was like on the other side of the map where no one could get to him, so he just bled out, yeah.
Yeah, that's really sad too.
Because, like, let's just say, we say you can live, but it's a really hard sell if no one's next to you. Because, say, Kais, his first character got gutted. Mm-hmm. Your vital organs are exposed to the world, and you are bleeding out. Unless you can recover 10 points of damage before the end of your next turn, you will die. 10 points of damage is not that easy to do.
No.
I think by the end, my tactics character, in addition to giving everyone like buffs, he also healed everyone for about 4 HP every turn. 6 if I used a buff on you. Mm-hmm. That's not 10. So someone else would have to come up with the additional 4.
You would have to be a healer. Like, there's like this Bioflux device can heal pretty well if you put into it.
Bioflux is another science.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you take a wound to the arm, the hand, or the leg, you lose that limb. And that's where prosthetics come in.
Yeah.
Of course, they're much more lenient if you get your arm severed off. You have 3 turns to live. Mm-hmm. And you have to spend 3 AP bandaging it up. There's no HP count. You just have to spend the 3 AP to like staunch the bleeding.
Yeah.
If your hand gets severed, you get 6 turns. If your leg gets severed, you get 3 turns, even though you bleed out faster from the leg than the arm.
Yeah, because it's just a bigger hole. You got your biggest arteries.
Yeah, that's where your biggest artery is, yeah. But, whatever. But yeah, so if you get killed, you might not actually get killed. You'll just suffer a debilitating injury.
Which is great.
Awesome, right?
Like, this is... Seriously, this is the stuff that builds characters and builds histories.
Yeah.
And really makes your guy memorable.
Karn was all the more memorable because he had, like, 3 fatals on him by the time we were done.
He had this big-ass hole in his head that he stuck an eyeball in. He lost an arm. He lost a leg. He got prosthetics on both of them.
And he was just awesome.
Yeah.
Like, Trevor was cooler because he got these awesome...
Robot eyes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This game also, going back to some of the more mechanics here, the game has a very staunch rule on ones. Mm-hmm. Basically, a 1 is a 1. You fail. It doesn't matter. There are some, unless there's a skill you have that specifically states, you can still treat the 1 as like a roll. A 1 is always a failure. No. No matter how high your specialty is, no matter how high your attributes or your skills are, it is a failure.
I think humans can like pick one skill.
Yes. Yeah, they can pick one attribute and do that.
Yeah.
12s roll again, and that's how you can get the big bonuses. There's actually an entire stat tree dedicated to rolling lucky. It's fairly cool.
Yeah.
Don't spec all the way into it though, because you will be shit.
Yes.
This game also has because it has the pinpoint body precision killing. There's also a bigger focus on call shots. Call shots are a lot easier to do than they are in Pathfinder.
And they're much more satisfying, I think.
So basically, an attack plus 1 AP is a call shot. Mm-hmm. So an attack usually is 2 AP. And so adding another AP of that lets you like basically hit a specific part, and these have different effects. Mm-hmm. Like if you hit him in the dick.
That was Vince's battle cry, by the way.
Hit him in the dick! Because one of the tactics abilities is you can take... you can spend your AP to let someone who is better at fighting take a called shot for free. Mm-hmm. So basically... But I took it as, since it's called issue orders, I put in the clause that I get to pick where you hit.
Yeah.
And so it was the dick. Always.
It was never not the dick.
We fought literally Satan. And we shot him in the dick.
He was Diablos from Final Fantasy VIII. Mm-hmm.
There was actually one time when we got into bleed damage at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
Where basically everyone shot this boss in the dick, and he was taking like 20 points of bleed damage from the dick.
I think that was Ifrit. Yeah.
Yeah. It was oh god, no, it was the guy Trevor stole the spear from, Garland.
Yeah, Garland.
It was a Final Fantasy campaign. Yeah, Trevor stole his spear, and then we all hit him in the dick. It was great.
It was messed up. And then a chandelier fell on him. Yeah. That was rough. You never let any of my villains have any dignity.
Nope. But yeah, so like, for instance, if you do a call shot to the dick, or the groin, as the game wants you to call it, the person who got hit in the groin takes a -2 to basically all rolls. So it's a much more instant effect than it is in Pathfinder. You don't have to, hope for a crit, basically, which is... I don't like call shots in Pathfinder.
I try really hard to like them.
No. And they're just...
Actually, I was thinking I might just if I was to do it, I might convert it to the gunslinger table, which is really good. Mm-hmm. The gunslinger swashbuckler effects on called shots. It's just this immediate cool effect.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think that's about it for the mechanics. Let's move on to another big meaty part of the game, the science attribute.
Yes.
So crafting is a very big part of this game. So basically there aren't any specific enchanted weapons in this game. You basically make your own by crafting them. And it's very easy to do that. All you have to do is put points into a craft and take a couple specialties.
Yeah.
So the specialties that are related to science give you a attribute called
do it yourself,
DIY, do it yourself, and augments. Mm-hmm. So augments are the specific abilities you can put on, like say an augment that makes things more accurate, or an augment that makes them easier to fold up so you can draw them quicker.
Yeah.
And your DIY is determines how many weapons you can maintain with augments. So say you have a DIY of 8. I think you can maintain 3 weapons.
Yeah.
So as long as you're around, basically everyone in your party can have a really cool enchanted weapon.
Or if you're doing something a little more personal, like bioflux, which is putting weird magical staff stuff on people, you can have biofluxes in 3 different people, including yourself. Mm-hmm.
Or all on yourself.
Yeah, usually all on yourself. Then that's what they usually go into.
Yeah. So every the crafting elements disciplines are alchemy, armsmith, automata, bioflex, engineer, and gadgetry. Mm-hmm. They all follow the same basic rules where you take a base item. If it's armsmith, it'll be a weapon or some armor. If it's alchemy, it'll be a potion. If it's bioflex, it'll be like one of the bioscanners.
Yeah.
If it's engineer, it'll be a ship.
Yeah.
Ships are really cool in this game. But let's take armsmith, for example. You start out with, you've taken the skill for armsmith. Mm-hmm. You've taken the specialties that give you the DIY and the augments to do it. You take a basic weapon, which the game has like 6.
And it just gives you two for free. It just gives you like these broad templates.
Yeah, like light, medium, heavy, super heavy.
Yeah. And
all it does is affect damage class, essentially. And if you have to have it one or two-handed. So you have this, we'll say, medium weapon. You have 3 augment slots that you can basically put enchantments on. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter. Your level doesn't matter because the strength of the enchantments is what is determined by your level. Yes. So you can put 3 slots with which to put augments on. Some augments take 2 or 3 slots, so you don't always have 3 augments on, but
or you can just buy them like that.
Yeah, you
they're
buy
generally
them.
Really expensive though.
Yeah. So if you craft them, it's free.
Yeah.
And so that's how you do it, and you can switch them very easily.
Yes.
You know, you can switch out. So it's like having a crafter in Pathfinder, except it's fun and it actually works.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of money to make it work. And so that's a really cool part of it. Like just looking through here, some of the stuff you can put on like a firearm. Mm-hmm. You can make it more accurate. You can make it automatically reload itself. You can make it custom, like booby trap it, so it's harder for other people to use.
Yeah.
You can give it a scope to increase its range. So the strength of these augments is based on your science skill.
Yes.
So they run in a 4-tiered system the same way your damage does. And your skills. Except you don't roll for it, you just if your science skill is high enough, you get it. So hang on. Yeah. So you have to have a skill rating, like your science attribute doesn't determine this. It's the specific skill. Mm-hmm. So the 4 tiers are called marks. Marks 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so the higher your mark, the better your augmentations are.
Yeah.
Here's kind of my problem with science. If to get mark 1, you have to have a skill of 0 to 4. To get mark 2, you have to have a skill of 5 to 14. So let's say if you wanted mark 2 augments, you'd have to have an armsmith over 5.
Yeah.
At or over 5. To get mark 3, it's 15 to 24. And to get mark 4, the highest, it's 25.
That is endgame. Like, endgame, if you put everything into that.
If you want mark 5, the highest tier, you have to put all of your big bonuses into that. You have to put 3 points in at level 1. Mm-hmm. And then you have to just keep putting 2 points in every level. And you'll barely have it by 12.
At the end of the game.
Yeah, the very end of the game, 12th level.
So...
Are Mark 4 augments worth it? Fuck no.
No, they are marginally better than Mark 3 augments.
Yeah, you can stop at Mark 3, really.
You should stop at Mark 3.
You should, because there's no... And, like, they put all this work into making crafting really cool. Mm-hmm. And they make you commit to it so hard that it almost just isn't worth it.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
It's really hard to be Tony Stark, like this super awesome crafter who can brawl really well.
Yeah. That being said, like with what we described, crafting is really cool. It's really customizable and gives you a lot of options and lets you have a lot of these cool stuff without having to like pay massive amounts of money for it and go through the rigmarole of crafting it, spending a week crafting it.
Yeah, they very obviously put a lot of love in these items in crafting.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of their sources, their expanded sources, is based around that. Like I said, the Mementos source book puts crafting with the luck skill.
Yeah.
And the explosives source book, which is the one we have, that just adds explosives to the alchemy table. It's another crafting focused book. Yeah. Aether is a crafting focused book, I think. It seems like it. The Living Liquids is another alchemy crafting focused book. So basically, almost all of them are. I actually don't know about Aether. I haven't looked at it, but I think Aether's magic, actually. Never mind. So there are source books, by the way.
We own one. It is the Explosions.
Yeah, I bought like 3 of them.
Oh, well.
I didn't use any. I used the one that expanded the Armsmith. Mm-hmm. There's one that expands Armsmith too to give you a lot of really cool one, like a quick draw shield.
Nice.
Oh, it's the other thing, cloaks and shields.
Yeah.
So cloaks and shields work a little differently than usual. They're not a static bonus. Mm-hmm. They basically, you spend 1 AP and you can give yourself a +4 to evade if you use a cloak or a shield.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Give yourself a nice boost if you need it. And I think we've hit all the high points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the low points.
Okay.
We've addressed some of them,
but in general, this is a really, really good game. This has a lot of very strong points, a lot of really unique stuff going on. It is definitely worth checking out. I could not imagine anybody this is their default game.
No, not really. It was cool. Like, we were pretty enamored with it for most of the first campaign.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got figured out.
It's obnoxiously exploitable.
Yeah. And I guess if you all swear not to exploit the game, it's fun, but
I don't think that would be very fun, though.
No. Yeah, should we talk about Bleed?
Yeah, let's talk about Bleed. Let's talk about the right answer in Endgame.
Yeah, so one of our guys made basically a druid.
An archer, I believe.
Yeah, druid archer that shot these arrows that did bleed damage continuously, and if you pulled the arrow out, it did a big burst of bleed damage.
Yeah.
The thing is, bleed stacks up, and he basically made it to where he would fire like 2 or 3 arrows in a round. Yeah. And so he would just hit you with such a massive amount of bleed, you can't do anything about it. And
if you pull it out, you're dead. If you don't do anything, you're dead in 2 turns.
Because it cost AP to pull him out too. Because you're bleeding yourself. He's shooting you with more arrows because he has a ridiculous accuracy.
Yeah.
And it's just this vicious cycle that you can't get rid of. There's technically a way around it in alchemy with the antiseptic.
Yeah.
Or the antiseptic or whatever it's called. It basically
whatever.
It stops all bleed damage. The problem is the person who was like playing that basically tried to argue that since it was continuous bleed damage that it would just reset the next turn. I'm just like, I don't know. But you can actually see the argument because the alchemy potion just stops all bleed damage. Mm-hmm. But technically you haven't pulled the arrow out yet. So if you want to get really technical, the bleed would start up the next round.
I'm imagining though that like you pretty much just like have this closed wound over the arrowhead, like you'd have arrowheads in you for the rest of your life, but
yeah,
you would be bleeding from them.
Yeah, of course that means making sure everyone in your campaign has that potion on them. And the problem is It doesn't prevent bleeding.
No. It's after the fact.
Yeah. So you're spending 1 AP to stop all bleeding, and then he hits you with bleed again.
Yeah.
Because you still take 1 round of the bleed.
And there are a lot of things here that just aren't terribly well worded. Something that is a little bit too ambiguous.
Yeah. And then there's like the frenzy stuff that did not work out very well. And of course then there was Steven, who was basically the only person who could have survived that bleed druid.
Yeah.
Because he can just soak it. Yeah, like there's a lot of ways to break this game, guys. We had a lot of fun with it. It's not going to replace Pathfinder or 5th edition.
No.
It's not. It's good for a lark.
I would be very excited to see a Tephra 2.0.
Yeah, like a refined version.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like, again, it's a really good game. The problems with it, though, it's just that it's rough.
I think it is in sore need of a playtest. I think. Yeah, it's in sore need of a playtest. Play it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
But you're probably gonna play it like one. Maybe get like the drive-through RPG version that's cheaper.
Yeah. Don't let your players get too familiar with it.
Yeah, because the game is fun when everyone's new, everyone's having fun, everyone's playing with the specialties that work and flow really well, everyone's finding what works. The problem is after you find what works.
Yeah.
The game is just broken.
And generally, like, I'm all for it having, like, the 12 levels, but it did feel kind of abrupt.
Yeah. So Cody, I don't go on the forums much, but you do.
Yes.
Any word on this one? I think it's kind of an indie RPG. So
it's pretty indie. It's fairly obscure. Although the things I've read about it are that people are saying that what the new edition of Shadowrun was, this is what this should have been. People generally like it a lot. Like the complaints that we made, I haven't really heard any of. I've heard some complaints on some of the source books on some of the other ones, but I'm not familiar with it, so I can't really say anything about one or the other.
Like, what were people saying?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like I'm familiar with all but like the newest ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my biggest complaint with a lot of the source books I got is it's all crafting.
Yeah, I think that might have been it.
There's no reason to get it if you're not going to craft. So.
And crafting is already the most well-developed part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, want to move on to some personal builds?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
I made Cleavington. Sir Henry Cleavington. He's a human. He is this is kind of a refinement on the luck guy I made in the second campaign we ran with this.
Yeah.
So basically, I made a guy who was nothing but luck. I put all my points into luck. I put all my specialties in luck. It sucked. Because it was a high-risk, high-reward player, but I wasn't... I didn't have the damage output to really justify the high-risk, high-reward.
Yeah.
So instead, I decided to split my luck, which is a spirit attribute skill, with frenzy, which is a brute attribute skill. So luck is a really fun specialty tree because you get stuff like lucky number 7 that lets me reroll any 7s and 12s.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I get something like jackpot, which is every time I roll an exploding dice, which in my case would be a 7 or a 12, I get a +2 to my damage class. So if I just keep rolling, jackpot keeps activating over and over. I can get like a massive hit.
Yeah.
I have to get lucky though. Here's where Frenzy comes in. Frenzy has an ability called 100 Strikes. We've talked about 100 Strikes.
Yes.
100 Strikes would essentially let me get 4 attacks, 4 chances to roll a 7 or a 12, 4 chances for jackpot to go off.
So you're a crit fiend?
It's a crit fiend. And that's really his whole shtick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy was basically complete by first level, so I had no idea what to do with my other lands. But I took a lot of stuff that made him quicker. I gave him some of the stuff in the dexterity skill swashbuckling, which is sword fighting.
Yeah.
I took instant draw, which is quick draw. I took hilt bash, which is like a zero AP counterattack, which is good for me because I won't have any AP. I have one called Saluted Opponent, which is a stance. And a stance functions effectively like a mark in 4th edition. They have these, you spend 1 AP to enter it, and then you're locked into it for the rest of the fight or until someone knocks you out of it. Mm-hmm. And so they're actually really cool. But the stance I got was Saluted Opponent, where basically it's like a Cavalier's Challenge.
Yeah.
I salute the guy, and I get a bonus equal to my swashbuckling skill on my accuracy attacks. Nice. So I have a better chance to hit people, which is what I want. And then I took another swashbuckling skill called Footwork Training, which is basically after every turn I move.
Yeah.
I roll a swashbuckling check, and my evade goes up by the amount of the tier I rolled. Here's why I took Footwork Training, because it doesn't really jive with the rest of everything else. Remember how I said your specialties determine your stats? Mm-hmm. Well, if you go for a specialty build like this, they have balanced these quite appropriately. Because this looks like someone who would be a glass cannon. Hey, guess what? I'm a glass cannon.
What's your HP?
My HP is 53.
That's not bad.
So my evade is 2.
Oh.
And my evade is basically 0 actually, because I took medium armor, which has a -2 penalty to evade. I have a defense of 4. The only reason I have a defense of 4 is because I put an augment on my armor. Those are not high defense rolls.
No.
To give you kind of something to work off of, my accuracy is 7. It's 10 if I'm saluting the opponent, and I have a strike of 9.
Yeah.
So I have an evade of 0. If I were to fight myself, I would have to beat an accuracy of 10 with an evade of 0.
Jesus.
I'm going to go down quick.
Yeah.
I'm taking you motherfuckers with me. But yeah, he is, which is to be square, because the skill I spec'd into is called Frenzy.
Yeah.
So, you know.
You are made to die.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this would be if we ever play Tephra again, I would probably remake my luck guy as this. Yeah. Because I think Frenzy really jives with it, because it's all about getting those multiple hits. Mm-hmm. And luck, it's all about chance. So the more chances I give myself,
the better you do.
The better I do. And so that's a neat little trick of a character.
That's pretty cool.
I have no idea what I would do with this guy like past level 5. I had no idea what to do with him at level 5, so I'd probably spec into something else, but that's my guy.
All right, well, my guy.
Oh, wait, you can name your weapons. Mine's named the Cleavemore.
Because your guys cleaves more.
Yeah, but it's a claymore, except it cleaves. It's a Cleavemore.
Oh, that's cute.
Thanks. I try.
Yeah.
He's a human too, if I didn't mention that.
My guy is also human, sort of. He is Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII.
Rock on!
I know, right? I was gonna make Cloud, but then I saw you had a great sword build, so... But either way, I kind of wanted to go into the Bioflux stuff a bit, because the Bio stuff has some really weird, cool stuff. Mm-hmm. Bioflux is basically you're hacking your genetic code, and so Vincent's whole thing is that he turns into a monster when he's angry. And so his monster's trait's not quite as dramatic as Final Fantasy VII's, but he can give himself a 6th Sense, which is a +4 to priority. Mm-hmm.
Priority is initiative.
Yeah. He can make himself aerodynamic, +10 to speed. He can light his ass on fire, which is 2 continuous damage to anybody who physically touches him.
And these are Bioflux enchantments he can put on himself?
Yes.
Basically, Bioflux augments you put on yourself. You're augmenting yourself.
Yes. And the last one is an exoskeleton that gives him a +4 brute resist to any called shot.
Nice.
So, he's pretty tough. He has some cool stuff you can do with that. His specialties are all about, the essences and his gun. Like, he gets penetrating shot, ignores soak, he gets snap reloads, so he can use a heavy weapon and reload it for free. He gets the turret stance, which is really cool.
Oh my god, Steven.
Turret stance makes you...
That's another one I forgot about that we just broke the game with.
Okay, so turret stance. You know how in Pathfinder, you get attacks of opportunity when people move into your threatened space? This does it with ranged weapons. So anyone that moves towards him in his threatened space, you can just make a snapshot even if it's not on his turn. So you just fuck people up with this really bad.
And the reason I kind of laugh at that is Steven used this on the second campaign we did. Mm-hmm. And I forget what, but like the way it's worded, it kind of says like if the guy is adjacent to you within your threatened range, you can make a snapshot. And so Steven, I don't know if this is actually something you could do. It sounded legit at the time, but Steven would go into the stance, get right next to someone, and because the guy was like basically threatening him, he would just get the 1 AP shots where normally he would get 2. And so basically what happened is he'd run up to someone with a 50 caliber sniper rifle, press it right to their face, and just unload the entire clip into them.
I think that may have been worded wrong.
Probably.
So that's pretty funny. And the next two I got were in the grace category, which is more of your like supernatural monk abilities. Mm-hmm. I got this one. It's my favorite. Every character I make gets this Leaf on the Wind, which is where you do these crouching tiger, hidden dragons. You can just basically run on the air. Mm-hmm. You can like run on water, lava. You can run on leaves on trees. You can just basically surf on a leaf. Mm-hmm. And that's really good. Makes it very mobile. And I also got Force of Self, whereas anyone that gets close to me, you can just like force attack and it pushes everybody back. It does this really nice spirit attack. I think he even does a little bit of damage. But my weapon is the Death Sentence, which is Vincent's final weapon, and I think he also has the best name, the Death Sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got damaging, which gives it its damage class up 2. And it has horrifying, because he's Vincent fucking Valentine. He's scary.
Yeah. And
so, you have to make a tier 2 spirit save or have feared.
Yeah, so that's where attributes kind of come into, is you have to...
Yeah.
They're your resistances.
All the attributes, there is a save for it. Yeah. Except for signs, which is all your knowledge checks.
Yeah.
Actually, no signs if you're playing gets down and stuff like that. That'll keep it afloat. Mm-hmm. His armor is pretty minimal. He just has like literally minimal armor. You get a 1 soak, but it doesn't take any penalties. I gave it damage soak power, which gives you a soak class of 2, so it's 3 soak class. It made it mobile, which means you get to move 10 feet faster.
Nice.
I also have a cloak because he's Vincent Valentine, so I got a +4 to evade on my already 4 evade, so that's a potential of 8. I got a defense of 3, so he's pretty mediocre on protecting himself. He's got more HP than you do because he took the toughness feat.
Yeah.
He's not as accurate though. He only has a 4 accuracy. Mm-hmm. But didn't really need it that much.
Yeah.
He can make a lot of hits. But that's pretty much my guy.
Nice.
Yeah. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Tephra, guys. A quick overview of that system. If you're interested in checking out, it's on DriveThruRPG in PDF format. I think you can still get it through Amazon. Last time I checked, the physical copy was at like a ridiculous price for some reason, like $399.
Yeah, that was nuts.
I don't know why that's happening, but there's a PDF version available. They have until recently, they were updating it quite frequently. So, hey. Like I said, there's quite a few source books for you to look around.
It's really worth giving a shot. If you guys want to do a steampunk campaign, I would definitely pick this over Pathfinder.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because the ships work a lot better. They are built the same way you build arms, so it's just a really clean, augmenting system. It's really cool, and there is an entire skill tree dedicated to piloting a ship.
Yes,
and it's very cool. And
also
it's another character I would like to do sometime.
Be the wheelman.
Yeah. But yeah, so who we doing next time?
I don't know, there's so many choices.
Yeah, I have a closet full of games.
Yeah.
I have a problem, guys. How about this? I want to hold off on 4th edition until we get to our campaign.
Yeah.
So there's 2 I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
That I want to. We talked about it quite a bit. And since we're on a Final Fantasy kick, there are 2 fan-made RPGs for Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
There is Zodiac, and then there's FF3 or FF 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
These are 2 fan-made. They're free, actually. You can download them right now. And I think we should go over them.
Great.
Because I want to talk about them.
I want to talk about them.
Yeah. So next week, we'll start with Zodiac, the Final Fantasy RPG.
Okay.
Or in 2 weeks, because it's bi-weekly now.
Yeah.
It has been for a while. So next time, we're going to talk about Zodiac, the Final Fantasy RPG. After that, it will be Final Fantasy RPG 3rd Edition. See you guys next time.
It's all right. That's all right.
Yep. I'm just going to try and edit tonight, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a bit late.